With the very first time that Discord met the main six, he's actually switched their personalities around to the opposing elements that they hold. So for example, Fluttershy, the element of kindness, became cruel. Applejack, the element of honesty, became a liar. And that just got me thinking, because Halloween is right around the corner. I'm very excited for it, and I'm sure you guys are as well. But I wanted to design the main six and their opposing personality trait and opposing element. So let's just get on with the video, starting off with Fluttershy. Just for the record, I will be talking a lot about the first time that Discord have met the main six, and that would be on season 2, episode 1. And that's because that was one of the only episodes where we saw all the main six all together lose the most important part of their personality, and one of the most important reasons why they became a part of the elements of harmony in the first place. The only thing about that episode, and I'll say this all over the video as well, I wasn't very satisfied with how their character design basically stayed the same even though their personality and element have shifted. So that's why I'm doing this video right now. Anyways, I want to talk about Fluttershy's original personality before I dive down into her element of chaos side. But basically, aside from, of course, being kind, she's also a very compassionate person. We saw that from season 1, episode 7, where even though she was very, very scared of the dragon living in the mountain, she was so compassionate and so protective of her friends that she was willing to put aside her fear and shyness in order to protect them. And another thing that stands out to me when it comes to Fluttershy is that she really does genuinely believe that there are good in some people, even though some people don't really show it. For example, in season 3, episode 10, she was the only one that really did believe in Discord being good, whilst everyone else had their guards up, and rightfully so. She was the only one who genuinely believed that Discord has changed for the better. So yes, like many other characters in this video that we're going to talk about, she is a very well-rounded character, and she provides a lot of emotional support towards her friends. But I want to talk about times when she also showed some cruelty, or at least came close to it. And before I say anything, I know that some of you guys can be quite protective of Fluttershy, and I just want to say this is all just observation, it's just for fun, nothing too serious, so don't come at me in the comments. But anyways, yeah, season 2, episode 1, when Discord corrupted her, she started acting very mean. So when I say that, she's kind of like a high school bully, where she was very passive aggressive, and she does really subtle things that makes it really obvious that she really doesn't like you. And another episode I wanted to point out was season 4, episode 7, when Applejack and Fluttershy weren't really seeing each other eye to eye on the bat situation in Applejack's farm. And I find it slightly strange that Fluttershy was a bit more concerned about the health and well-being of the bat instead of the health and well-being of Applejack and her family, you know, her friend, one of her best friends. We know that Applejack struggles with money a little bit as well, because in general it is difficult to gain a profit from farming, especially when she has to do all the manual labor herself. She and her family have basically cultivated that farm for years and years and years, and for them to be destroyed by bats, it is going to be quite devastating. So in that episode, I did find that Fluttershy was slightly unconcerned and insensitive about Applejack's situation, especially when her whole family relied on every year's apple harvest in order to actually get money. And I'm very certain that Fluttershy didn't mean it to be like that, but it came across very funny to me when I watched that episode. Speaking of which, I did use that episode's Flutterbat design for this redesign, so I basically dulled her colours down a little bit more, just so that it's not too poppy, not too friendly. I wanted her to look a bit more aggressive. And then of course I changed her Pegasi wings into bat wings and gave her a very dark makeup look. We could see from other episodes that she has worn like a gothic type look in the past, but I didn't want to use outright black because I wanted the colours to complement her, which is why I used darker pink instead. I really was trying to give her some fancy vampire vibes, maybe like Dracula from Monster High. The only thing is, I really do wish that I've done her hair up a bit more instead of just leaving it roughed up and down. I feel like I should have put it up in a bun or something to make her look a bit more fancy. And as the element of cruelty, I feel like not only would she be the mean girl type like what we saw in that episode with Discord, but also she would use her soft demeanor to manipulate people emotionally. So that's kind of things like gaslighting, weaponized compassion, those kind of things. But yeah, she would definitely be more subtle about it compared to the other ponies we have in this video. Next up is Rainbow Dash, the element of loyalty. And one thing I really like about Rainbow Dash is that she's always there at the front line when it comes to her friends being in danger. That's one of the best things I love about her, just because kind of like Fluttershy in a way, whenever there is danger around, she and Applejack will be the first ponies to step up and step in front of their friends, and I think that's really nice, and that deserves a lot of credit. She's also very open about defending her friends a lot and staying by their side. So I mean, one of the first times we saw this was in season 1 episode 2, outright when the Shadow Bolts, I think that's what they're called, when they were inviting her to join them as, like, I guess the darker version of the Wonderbolts. She resisted them, and even though she've only met these ponies for a little while, she was quite loyal to them from the get-go. And another episode that really stood out to me about Rainbow Dash's loyalty was when we were introduced to Gilda, the Griffin. We know that Gilda and Rainbow Dash go way back than the main 6, because they were technically childhood friends. And in that episode, Gilda wasn't very nice to Pinkie Pie, and I'm not sure if she was very nice to Rainbow Dash's other friends as well. But in that episode, when Rainbow Dash did recognize that, she immediately put her hoof down and just basically dropped Gilda in front of everyone. And she wasn't afraid to do so, even though she was disappointed of Gilda's behavior. And you do have to give credit to her for that, because in that situation it was very tricky, to be completely honest. If you have a lot of friends from different areas and they just don't get along, who would you side with? You know, that is a very tricky situation. And the good news is that there isn't really much evidence out there, or many episodes out there, where Rainbow is outwardly betraying her friends. There are lots of episodes out there where she is quite negative, like for example, she can be a bit too overtly honest. And of course, there are certain times when she over pushes certain boundaries, especially when it comes to over pushing her friends. We see that a lot when she's trying to push Fluttershy as well. I wouldn't say that that's overtly cruel, but it is something I wanted to point out, especially when it comes to her competitive behavior. It's not an outright disloyalty to her friends. I mean, I would agree that certain competitiveness, even against your friends, can be quite healthy. But there are some examples. I can't remember the actual episode, but when she and Applejack were running for that fall or autumn, whatever event it was called, she was cheating or was about to cheat in order to win. And there are a few times as well where she would gladly cheat in order to win a certain competition. That's not very friendly, and I don't think that's very... I'm not sure if it even counts as being disloyal, but it is something a bit funny. But the only episode where she outwardly betrayed her friends was that season 2 episode 1, and that's only because Discord has corrupted her and has basically tricked her, and that's the reason why she abandoned her friends. Aside from that, there isn't really much episodes I could find where she outwardly abandoned her friends, so she is quite good at being the element of loyalty. However, I do want to change that for this episode, and so for her design, as you could see, I basically wanted to give her darker colors this time to represent thunderclouds, because right now she has the cutie mark that she's got, which is like a cloud with a lightning bolt on it that's rainbow. I feel like rainbow in general is far too friendly looking, and I'm trying to get them to have the opposing element. So I am going to be making the controversial decision and basically removing any rainbow part on her. So I gave her this dark blue navy kind of coat, and for her hair I did give it a lighter blue type of color and put a yellow zigzag on it to represent lightning, because I wanted her to look like a thunderstorm cloud. That's because her original design, it basically kind of reminds me of a clear sky, nice sunny day, but I wanted to go for the opposite this time, which is why you could see that her design is a bit more reminiscent of a storm. And I would say that Rainbow Dash is the only pony in this video that has this much of a drastic change. Everyone else has some reminiscent of their previous personalities, but Rainbow Dash definitely is one of the biggest changes, and I could already tell that this is going to be a little bit controversial in the comments. But I really needed to remove that rainbow part of her, because the rainbow part of her is the one that makes her look really friendly, the one that actually ties her in with the element of loyalty. So unfortunately I wanted to remove that, just to remove the element of loyalty as well. So for Pinkie Pie, we know that she's quite unpredictable, and in turn she's quite chaotic herself. But with all that aside, she's really just trying to make people laugh and smile, because she herself, as she said in her story for how she got her cutie mark, she really wanted people to experience how it's like to be really, really happy, as she was when she first saw Rainbow Dash's rainbow. And she's not just making people laugh or smile because she wants to be the center of attention or wants to be the clown of the group. Nothing like that. She genuinely just wants people to be happy. And we see that across the entire seasons as well. I can't remember the actual episode, but when she met that donkey guy, the mule guy, she genuinely wanted him to be happy as well, and did try her best and basically went above and beyond for someone else's happiness. And we see that across other seasons and other episodes as well. Like, for example, season 4 episode 12, I think it was, and she gave up her own party in order for Cheese Sandwich to make his party or get his party to go on, because it made her friends happy. And you know what, that's really good for her. The only thing is that sometimes her behavior does slightly concern me. And this is coming from someone with a psychology degree. I don't want to use that excuse to justify my reasonings, but it's just that, especially on season 1, episode 25, right, when her friends were planning a birthday party for her, her obsessive behavior towards her friends and then her downward spiral from that really was raising a few red flags in my head. But I'm just going to justify that as Pinkie being Pinkie, because to be fair, that's not really the opposite element of laughter. I suppose that comes with the element of laughter, her being slightly crazy. But the characteristic I want to talk about the most was before she had the rainbow incident, because that was the whole reason why she got really happy and wanted to share happiness, right? Because she was so happy seeing the rainbow. But let's say there's an alternate universe where that never happened and she remained miserable in her family's rock farm. So in this alternate universe, she never found a reason to be happy and just basically worked in her family's farm until she grew up, which is why in her design right now, I wanted her to basically look like her hair isn't puffed up, because that sometimes happens when she's really sad, right? So I just wanted to keep that straight hair because it was canon. And of course, I gave her these kind of really strong metal type shoes that will help her dig in her family's farm. I'm very sure that they don't need this, because from what I could see, their hooves are actually strong enough to cut down or break down rocks, so she definitely doesn't need it, but I just added it for aesthetic reasons. Her color palette as well, I dulled it down a little bit, so it's not the vibrant pink that you would see Pinkie Pie have, but I did dull it down a little bit more just to tie in the colors together. And one thing you guys will notice now is that I actually added some sparkles across the bottom of her legs and the bottom of her hair as well, or the ends of her hair. I did that because I wanted to add something interesting into her design. And the thing is, sometimes in certain mines you can find mica, which is this really sparkly, natural, glittery looking rock thing that you can break down to make glittery rock powder things, right? And I would feel like at some point she would come across a mica cave or something like that, and she would use that to dig, and I would find that some of those mica would actually attach to her or something. And maybe that's how she would make her living, like she would be digging for mica minerals, mica rocks. You guys could also see that I drastically changed her cutie marks, because there is no way that I could make those balloon cutie marks fit this kind of alternate universe character. So I gave her a geode cutie mark instead, because I feel like that would suit her in this universe instead. Now, before I move on to the next section, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of something as well, as a thank you for always supporting me as per usual. So I actually made an extra pony for you guys, and I wanted to give this pony away to one lucky sub. Now, she is awesome themed because of the season, and one of you guys could win her if you are subscribed and you comment down below. The winner will gain full ownership of this character, and I will be removing my watermark from there as well, so that they can actually have the full unmarked image. And I'll put this up for about a week, and I'll announce the winner next Mango Monday if they allow me to. And again, all you have to do is basically be subscribed and comment down below. And if you can suggest a name, that would be amazing. Anyways, let's go back to the video. Without a doubt, Applejack is one of the most hard-working ponies in the entire group, and she is such a lovely, well-rounded character as well. It's really difficult to find anything negative about her. Her element, the element of honesty, and her characteristics in general is something that you would see in a mature friend group. And it's definitely something that you would appreciate a little bit later on when you are older in life or you're a bit more mature in life, because I find that especially when it comes to younger people, a lot of the times when they act in front of others or when they say things in front of others, especially when it's their friends, they're not very honest with themselves, and the way that they act isn't very true to themselves. Which is why characters like Applejack is very important to shows like My Little Pony, who has a younger audience, because it shows them that it is okay to be honest, and sometimes, or most of the time, honesty is the best policy. But as we know, there are lots of evidence across the series where sometimes too much honesty can be quite negative as well. One episode that really showed how Applejack's honesty can be quite negative would be season 7 episode 9, when Rarity asked her to be the judge of a fashion show. And the reason why Rarity did that was because she really did value Applejack's honesty and believed that that would be really helpful for the fashion contestants. And in this episode we saw that Applejack's honesty developed into outright criticism to a point where it wasn't really helping anyone. We also see some episodes where she was basically lying to herself or lying to others in order to avoid a certain situation. So I mean, one prominent episode that I could think of right now, season 1 episode 4, where she was basically lying to herself, lying to her friends that she doesn't need help because she was so competitive. She was so focused on proving, I think it was Big Mac, wrong, that she can't do it herself, to a point where she was just basically lying to herself and everyone that she didn't need help when in fact she did. And of course, I'm going to say it again, season 2 episode 1, Discord basically turned her into a liar. And in that, I found it really interesting how when she did get her personality corrupted, she also almost became quite lazy as well. Like when she came back to her farm, she wasn't really tending to any work at all. So in a way, removing her honesty also removed a very critical part of her characteristic that made her work. And I find that it is quite interesting seeing that happen to Applejack, because not only was one personality removed, but another one has been taken away as well. So what I wanted to basically do is work off an alternate universe where basically, hear me out, right? So Applejack's mum and dad, I forgot their names, but I'm not sure what happened to them. I guess they died, but imagine they didn't die and they helped raise Applejack, and at some point their empire of apples and pear farms became really, really big, to a point where Applejack and her siblings grew up to be quite spoiled. And in that universe, I imagine her to be like Veruca from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where she basically gets whatever she wants. She doesn't have to be honest, because what is the point of honesty when you can get anything you want? I didn't really change much of her character designs though, just because I did just braid her hair to kind of show that she's more into her looks rather than kind of working in the farm or helping her mum and dad with like their business or anything like that. I did give her a scarecrow hat instead of a cowgirl hat though, just because I find that scarecrows are a good symbolism of deceit. Because scarecrows are essentially there to deceive crows and birds from going around and messing up the crops, right? So I find that sometimes I symbolize scarecrows with deceiving someone, so I gave her that scarecrow hat. And again, in terms of her alternate universe personality being the element of dishonesty, she would be using her lies and manipulation similar to Fluttershy in order to get things her way. And in a way, I do feel like she might be sort of like Babseed, where she would side with a lot of the rich kids, rich popular kids, and be a bully towards other people who might not be as fortunate. And for her cutie mark, I'm not sure why it's not turning up right now, because sometimes I do forget to add the cutie mark part way through and I do it at the end. I should be doing it at the beginning or in the middle so you guys could see it. But basically her cutie mark would be one apple with a worm inside it, just kind of like to say that she's rotten from the inside, you know? One thing about Rarity is that she is gorgeous inside and out. I mean, look at her, she is such a very pretty pony. And on top of that, she is genuinely generous towards other ponies as well. Like, she's not doing that to look good. That's how she just basically is as a person, or as a pony, sorry. And one episode that really highlights how she is as a pony would be, I can't remember the actual episode to be completely fair, I think it was in season 1, Art of the Dress, where she basically put aside her own taste and her own, I guess, nearly her career in order to make her friends happy, because she really wanted to make them a dress that they like. I mean, in that episode, she really did put her career on the line, because I forgot the pony's name, but there was some like hotshot pony that was really going to make her boutique pop off, and her friends nearly ruined it. And you know, she took that risk because she wanted them to be happy. Another episode that showed her generosity, God, I can't actually remember the season or episode, but when she went to Manhattan or something like that, and she was going into a fashion show, and her fabrics, the special fabrics that she created herself that took her a really long time, was not stolen. She gave it away because she was so generous and someone asked her for it, and she gave it away because she didn't really expect anything bad from it, and in turn that kind of ruined her line. But I would say that Rarity is definitely one of the ponies that obviously exerts the opposing element. So I do say that she has a lot of episodes and evidence where she displayed greed. I'm gonna say this again, season 2 episode 1, when Discord corrupted her, she was far more concerned about a massive diamond compared to everyone else, and she was basically hoarding that diamond. She wasn't allowing anyone to help her whatsoever, or she was really insistent in anyone touching the diamond because she wanted to keep that diamond for herself, and she was so convinced that one of the other ponies will touch it or kind of steal it, I guess. And there was also a time, I can't remember the exact episode or season, but it's when she was making a sort of costume for someone, and she used these kind of blue sapphires, but Sweetie Belle used those sapphires in her like arts and crafts work, and Rarity wasn't very happy with that. I know that it was her line of work and everything, and she was really relying on this costume to, I guess, make her money or make her business really popular in Equestria, just because I think the pony she's making the costume for was like some sort of celebrity who would then endorse her boutique or something. At the same time, it's one of the moments where her generosity didn't really fly through, because I would have thought that as a person that symbolizes generosity, when Sweetie Belle took those sapphires, she would kind of at least look at what Sweetie Belle has done first before kind of throwing off, because she did see Sweetie Belle's drawing a bit later on, but that's after she kind of really told her off. But anyways, that's one of the examples I could think of. And for her alternate design, I didn't want to dull her down, just because I feel like as a person or pony that represents the element of greed, I feel like she would be the type to wear greed beautifully. So instead of just kind of dulling her down and making her look evil, I kind of over exaggerated her design a bit more. So I gave her, well, her hair is still a bit curled and it's put up in a bun, and you guys might not see it now, but I basically put gems all across her mane and her tail, just to kind of exaggerate on that fact that she keeps her gems to herself. She is a greedy pony person that likes to bejewel herself, and you could see that across her design as well. Like for that necklace, those anklets, those bracelets, she basically wants to wear her greed. At some point very soon as well, you could see that for her hair I did grey it out a little bit more, just because I wanted to show how, I guess, stressed she is, because she's so, I would imagine that at some point when she wants to keep all of this money, all of this wealth to herself, she's going to find it really stressful to make sure that no one is backstabbing her, kind of like how she acted at that season 2 episode 1 kind of reaction, where she basically doesn't want anyone to touch her diamonds, doesn't want anyone to touch her gems. So I feel like at some point she would get so stressed out about it that she would grey out. For her cutie mark, I did struggle with this a little bit, just because I wasn't sure what to put down since her cutie mark is already 3 diamonds. So instead I gave her 1 diamond for a cutie mark, and I kind of put a crack on it. But if I were to redo this, I feel like I should have made her cutie mark like a treasure box instead, to show how she hoards her treasures. And last but not least, we've got Twilight, who represents the element of magic. And throughout the series, especially from the very beginning, we do realize that Twilight is especially talented in magic compared to any other unicorn. And the reason why I say that is because we see that her magic is a bit more volatile, a bit more malleable compared to other ponies. So For example, for Rarity, a lot of the times when she uses her magic, it's only really relating to gems or fashion. But for Twilight, her magic is a bit more varied, and I feel like that kind of shows off her talent a bit more. It's also undeniable that Twilight is definitely the smartest pony of the group, and we could see that because every time there is problems, or if there's an issue, someone's having a problem somewhere, people naturally orbit around her as well, and they go to her for advice. And one episode that truly showed this off for her would be season 3 episode 5, when Trixie basically challenged her to a magic duel. The only thing is, Trixie had some sort of talisman that made her more powerful. And even though the odds were against her, and she knew for a fact that the talisman with Trixie's magic was basically stronger than her own magic, even though the odds were against her, she still managed to pull through, and she used friendship basically and strategy in order to get around this particular obstacle. And we see that happening, of course, throughout the entire series as well, where there are times where she can't rely on magic and she would use her head. And of course, even when she does rely on magic, she's very powerful. She knows what she's doing. However, we do see some parts where she could be a bit too obsessive about figuring things out, almost like how Pinkie is also slightly obsessive with making people happy and being a part of her friendship group. Twilight has similar type of characteristics as well, where she is very much so obsessed with magic and being able to solve problems. That's literally how she presents herself, being the problem solver. And when she fails to solve problems, that's when crack starts to happen. So for example, season 2 episode 20, she became really obsessed about controlling her future, because I guess her future self, I think, came back through time and was trying to warn her to not be too obsessive, and she obsessed over that to a point where it was really affecting her negatively. She also displayed these characteristics in one of the films. I think it was the second film. I can't remember what it was. Battle of the Bands. It was against the Dazzlings, right? And a lot of people were relying on her to fix that problem, to put an end to whatever issue the Dazzlings were causing. And the thing is, she wasn't a very good lyricist, and that's what they needed her to be at that point. And she was obsessing over it. She couldn't get any sleep over it as well, and she was stressing out. A lot of cracks started to appear, and at some point she just wasn't being the leader that she wanted to be, and it was really making her really upset. So let's say in this alternate universe, she never valued friendship. What if she valued magic and was so obsessed about magic a lot more that she never really cared for the magic of friendship or whatever, and she dabbled into forbidden magic? And in this alternate universe, she really does push herself a lot more, and since she had no friends, or would have no friends to warn her, to stop her, to see the value in other things aside from magic, she would basically be pushing herself to the limits. I don't have any explanation on why or how she becomes an alicorn still at this kind of universe, but I wanted to add the horn and the wings just because that's how she is in the series, and I didn't want to deviate from that. So she's still an alicorn. I have no explanation for that, but that's how she is going to be. So the design I was going for was a bit more scholar turned into rogue type of vibe. So her hair is a bit more asymmetric, because I feel like when she has that kind of straight fringe, it makes her look like she has been taken care of, which is fair enough and stuff. But when you are a rogue magician of dark magic, I don't think you have time for that. So her hair is a bit shorter, it is a bit more asymmetric, and so is her mane to match with that. And I gave her a witch's hat. I've got no explanation for that, but the only thing I could say is maybe in dark magic that involves Wicca. I'm not very familiar with Wicca itself. I know that it can be both good and bad, but let's just say I added that in for the vibes. And again, like many characters from this series, I did change her coat color as well. I feel like the way that she's colored in, like her color palette, is far too friendly. I mean, that's the whole point of My Little Pony. The color palette is supposed to be very friendly looking, but I wanted to change that. And the most drastic change would definitely be her hair. So it is still mainly blue, because to be fair, the main colors of her hair is basically blue, but I changed the accent colors to other types of blue as well. And another thing that you guys might notice now is that on her horns, it has some cracks on it. And that's what I mean earlier when I said that she's basically pushing herself to the magical limit. Like, she is performing a lot of spells that are difficult and of course forbidden, and it's coming to a point where her horns are basically showing cracks because she is overdoing it. I think you guys might have seen earlier as well in my sketch, her cutie mark, I have of course changed it because, I mean, the star on her original cutie mark is already good enough. I suppose I could have just copied and pasted that and it wouldn't have made a difference. The thing is though, I wanted her to look slightly more evilish, I suppose. And again, I used the concept of Wicca because in Wicca they use pentagrams in a lot of their spells. Again, I know that Wicca is not necessarily evil, it can be both good and bad, but it's just something that I wanted to add onto her cutie mark as well because the star in the pentagram matches the star on her original cutie mark, and I just feel like it would work as an alternative design. Well, that's all I have for this video. Thank you for everyone who watched this far. It is quite a long video. And if you guys have any names for the alternate versions of the main 6, please put them down in the comments below because I think that their original names doesn't really match their design right now. So it would be really interesting if some of you guys can come up with different names for them as well. And again, I'll be giving away this autumn theme pony to any one of you guys, and all you have to do is be subscribed and leave a comment down below. And if you have any suggestions for a name for her, leave that down there as well. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next Mango Monday. Bye!